Felicitous greetings, fellow Fanatics. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Adam the Fanatic, and today we're going to be taking a look at X-Men Mutant Insurrection, a dice manipulation adventure by Fantasy Flight Games. In Mutant Insurrection, 2 to 6 players will each take on the role of one of the eponymous X-Men, traveling around the world to complete missions while trying to uncover a major villain's plot. By completing missions, players will train for future battles, build bonds with their teammates, and recruit more mutants to their cause, eventually culminating in a showdown to disrupt whatever wicked scheme is underway. To set up, each player will choose one mutant to play as. The game comes with 16 heroes out of the box, and you can also download an official print and play file to add Domino to your game. You'll then take 3 to 5 of the continent decks, depending on the number of players you have. For example, in a 3-player game, you'll use 4 continents, randomly returning 1 to the box. You'll shuffle each of the continent decks individually, as well as the villain deck, 3 threat decks, the mutant deck, and the bond deck.
Bond. James Bond.
Not that Bond. You'll start with the threat tracker at 4 for standard difficulty, though you can set it higher or lower for a harder or easier game. After that, players will choose one of 8 scenarios to play through, with the Brotherhood of Mutants being recommended for your first game. In this case, it tells us to search the story deck for Card 1, Side A, which is Xavier's Dream. Each scenario has its own goals which you must complete to eventually lead to the final showdown. In this scenario, we see that the briefing card tells us to simply complete a number of missions in order to flip it, which will start the next part of the plot as Magneto himself arrives.
X-Men, welcome to die!
Each round consists of 4 phases: Deploy, Mission, Threat, and Regroup. In the Deploy phase, each mutant will choose to either challenge a mission or head to one of 3 rooms in the Xavier Institute. A maximum of 3 X-Men may deploy to each mission. If they deploy to a face-down mission, it is flipped face-up immediately. If a mutant instead heads to the school, they'll be able to heal and gain an additional benefit depending on which room they visited, allowing them to take a training token, peek at a face-down card from one of the mission decks, or allowing them to set back the threat tracker. Next is the mission phase, where the main meat of the game takes place. Each mission has 2 or 3 objectives which must be fulfilled in order to complete the mission. Most missions allow you to complete them in any order, but on some, you'll see this red arrow which indicates they must be completed from top to bottom. In order to attempt the mission, you'll select one of the X-Men to be the active mutant. Each mutant has their own power card and assist card, which together make up a pool of 6 dice. The player may choose to use the dice on their own cards, or they may borrow an assist card from another player at the same location. If they do this, they also gain the ability text on the other mutant's assist card. You'll then roll your dice in Yahtzee-like fashion, choosing which to keep and which to reroll, up to 3 rolls in total. Red dice specialize in combat symbols, yellow specialize in power symbols, and blue specialize in teamwork. Each die also has one villainy symbol. By themselves, these can be treated as blank dice and re-rolled freely. However, when fighting against a villain, they'll have some sort of ability that triggers against the player if they decide to re-roll any villainy dice. The player can choose to simply set those dice aside and ignore them, or they can take the penalty to re-roll them along with any others they choose. Once they're finished rolling, they may place dice on the mission card in order to complete objectives, as well as their training token if they have one. You may ignore yellow symbols while the threat tracker is in the green zone, and only have to worry about the red symbols while it's in the red zone. Whenever players complete a row, they place a success token over it to show that it's been finished. If this completes the last objective, the players immediately follow the success text on the bottom of the card. If any objectives remain, another player at the same location may attempt to fulfill any additional objectives if they've not already done so. If all heroes at the mission have already attempted it and it still remains incomplete, they'll have resolved the failure text on the card. Keep in mind that you only resolve this text for cards that were deployed to this round. After that is the threat phase. This is when the villains will make their move. First, you check all active missions for these threat symbols, represented by exclamation marks. For each of these on an uncompleted face-up mission, you'll advance the threat tracker 1 space. After that, you'll reveal cards from continent decks depending on the number of players. For a 3-player game, you'll reveal 1 each round. Next, you'll draw 1 card from the threat deck that matches the color of the zone that the threat tracker is currently in. However, if that deck is depleted, you draw from the next threat deck up instead. Threat cards are never pleasant, and are capable of raising threat, damaging characters, breaking bonds, and deploying sentinels to missions to make them both more urgent and more dangerous. Finally is the regroup phase. At this point, all heroes will return to the Blackbird and you'll rotate any exhausted cards back to their ready position. More on that in a little bit. You'll repeat the standard round structure until players reach the Showdown, at which point the final battle begins. However, two things can end the game early. If the players ever need to draw a card from the red threat deck but none remain, or if the threat tracker ever goes above 15, then the game ends immediately and the players lose. If any heroes are knocked out during their adventures, the game does not immediately end. Instead, you'll advance the threat tracker by 1, and during the next deploy phase, their player may replace him with a hero that hasn't already been used in that game. As you complete missions, you'll gain various rewards. Story missions typically serve only to advance the plot, though this is obviously necessary to eventually win the game. Constant missions instead tend to prepare you for future fights. This can heal your characters, reduce the threat level, give players training tokens, allow you to recruit mutants, or create bonds between heroes. What, I thought getting friend-zoned by Rogue was like half of Gambit's character. Keep in mind that a hero may only have 1 training token, 1 mutant, and 2 bonds at a time, and they may only share 1 bond with each other hero. When you take a training token, you'll simply place it on your power card for future use. You may discard it at any time to count it as a die on the matching side. Mutant cards represent minor characters from the series. Most of them can be used once per round, and you'll turn their card sideways after using their ability to show that they've been exhausted, though some may only be used once and are then discarded. When a player is instructed to form a bond, they take the bottom card of the bond deck. They'll then search the bond deck for the matching card and give it to another hero of their choice. Most bonds can only be used when those 2 heroes are on the same mission, and give a once per round ability similar to mutant cards. However, players have to beware. If they're ever forced to break a bond, then a pair of matching bond cards must be flipped over, giving those heroes a penalty whenever they sally forth together. If the players make progress through the game, then eventually they'll reach the scenario Showdown. At this point, they'll flip over 2 to 4 story cards, including the plot card, to make a panoramic image of the battle that now takes place. During the Showdown, new heroes no longer come into play. If the remaining heroes are all knocked out, then the players lose. Furthermore, the threat phase no longer raises the threat tracker, nor does it play threat cards. Instead, all heroes will take a certain amount of damage each threat phase. To complete the Showdown, players will deploy to its missions. At this point, they can only deploy to the Showdown missions. If there's only 1 left, they all go there, ignoring the usual limit of 3 heroes per mission. Each objective on a Showdown mission may be completed multiple times. You'll need to get a certain number of success tokens on each mission to clear it. For this particular mission, we can see that the heroes need a number of successes equal to the number of heroes minus 1, or in this case, 3. When you have enough success tokens on a given mission, you'll remove them and place a Showdown token to show that that mission has been completed. If the players manage to get Showdown tokens on each of the missions, then they win the game. Component-wise, the game is solid. It's all pretty much what we've come to expect from Fantasy Flight games. Dice are nice and solid and engraved as they should be, though it feels like they should probably have a few more in there. Cards are of decent thickness and are textured so that they're easier to pick up and hold. The cardboard is nice and thick, but they're still using these plastic stands which will eventually damage your standees, especially since they don't include enough for every hero. So you'll constantly have to take them off and put them on whenever you want to try out a new team. The artwork is pretty high quality, especially those panoramic images used to represent the showdowns. And finally, you have the cardboard Blackbird, which admittedly does look kinda cool on the table, but doesn't really serve any purpose in the game. Is that still rolling? Thematically, the game is good, though I would hesitate to call it great. Heroes each have their own powers and dice pools, some of which make more sense than others. Meanwhile, the Bond and Mutant cards do a great job of making it feel like you're really putting together and growing as a team. Then there's the story cards. These try to tell a narrative, but they're honestly my biggest complaint about the game. They feel like they need more context. As someone who's more familiar with the cartoons and the films, whenever they had a plot that I was familiar with, such as the Sentinels or Asteroid M, the story made perfect sense and I was able to follow along because I already knew what was going on. But then when I tried playing the Second Genesis or Dangerous scenarios, I was just left scratching my head the entire time. And I can't help but imagine it would be even worse for someone who's even less familiar with X-Men than I am. This makes it very difficult to recommend to anybody who's not already familiar with the theme in question. I have heard that this is a retheming of Elder Sign, but I'm not a fan of anything Lovecraftian, so I'll take X-Men over Cthulhu any day. All in all, even as a casual fan, I still find X-Men Mutant Insurrection to be an enjoyable experience. The rules for the scenarios are different enough that they never get stale, and it's a lot of fun trying to math out the best way to approach the game. On the other hand, it can feel like a lot of your success or failure relies on how quickly you can get that early threat level under control. If a nasty threat card comes out and puts multiple difficult missions into play right off the bat, the game may be over before it even really begins. You have a wide variety of characters right out of the box, and most, though not all, of the major characters are already in there. Sorry, Nightcrawler fans. While the plot cards are rather lacking in storytelling, there's more than enough here to make up for it. In conclusion, I find Mutant Insurrection to be worthy of a respectable 8.4 out of 10. If you're interested in purchasing X-Men Mutant Insurrection or learning more, links are included in the description. What about you? What do you think of Mutant Insurrection? What's your favorite Marvel tabletop game? If you have any questions, remarks, or opposing points of view, leave them in the comments down below. And please remember to like, share, subscribe, and ring that bell. Until next time, farewell, fellow fanatics. Thank you again for watching. I have plenty more to share with you if you're interested. You can click up here above my head to subscribe to my channel. You can click over here on my monitor to see the most recent video that I've worked on. Or if you prefer, you can click up here to open this mysterious vault and see what video that the YouTube algorithm has picked just for you.